You think the first Pokemon games were built by a giant triple, a studio with unlimited money, but the original Pokemon was created by a small team, working on hardware weaker than a calculator today. Back in the 1990s, the Nintendo Game Boy had only a tiny amount of memory. No modern engines, no Unity, no Unreal Engine. No AI tools writing code at 3 AM. Developers had to manually optimize everything. The creator of Pokemon, Satoshi Tajiri, got the idea from collecting insects as a kid. He imagined, what if kids could collect creatures digitally? That tiny idea eventually became one of the biggest franchises on Earth. But building the first Pokemon Red and Blue was a nightmare. The development took years. At one point, the company was almost out of money. The team at Game Freak was so small, some developers worked without proper salaries because they believed in the project. And here's the crazy part. The entire game was programmed in low-level code close to assembly language, meaning developers had to control memory manually. Today, if your app crashes, you restart VS Code. Back then, one mistake could corrupt the entire game cartridge. And because the Game Boy was extremely limited, developers used insane tricks to save space. Some Pokemon data shared memory. Animations were compressed aggressively. Even battle systems were carefully optimized byte by byte. That's why old games sometimes had weird bugs, like missing no. That famous glitch happened because the game accidentally read corrupted memory data as a Pokemon. Basically, the Game Boy got confused and said, yeah, sure. This block of broken data is now a bird-shaped demon. And then came the biggest innovation, trading Pokemon using the link cable. Today, multiplayer sounds normal, but back then, that was revolutionary. Kids physically connected two Game Boys together, transferred creatures, and completed collections socially. That single feature transformed Pokemon from just another RPG into a cultural phenomenon. And what's funny is, the developers themselves weren't even sure the game would succeed. Now, Pokemon makes billions. Movies, cards, anime, merchandise, competitive esports. All from a game made on hardware with less power than your refrigerator display. Which proves something important. Great games are rarely about ultra-realistic graphics. They're about ideas, creativity, and developers stubborn enough big, even when the knowledge says absolutely not.